Hi everyone, and welcome. I know I'm not outdoors. Lately, getting outdoors is going to be a bit of an issue because I'm trying to get as much work as possible, and Sunday I've got loads to do around the house and so on in preparation for everything. So basically I'm just staying home. But I am making pasta tonight and I wanted to share the process of how I make my pasta. The pasta I'm going to make is based on a very simple recipe. 100-gram flour, 1 egg. I worked out that about 300 gram is gonna feed me and my family. We're family of 5. So my youngest won't eat so much. So I think 300 grams should make enough pasta to feed us all. So that's what I'm gonna base it on. The recipe doesn't require for you to put salt into the pasta. I am gonna put a pinch of salt in any case because that will just add a little bit of flavor. Pasta you would normally make with 00 flour. It's a very fine grain flour, which is ideal for pasta. But honestly, plain flour will do you just fine. And if you don't have 00 flour, just use plain flour. I'm going to use plain flour. The flour that I'm using is Tesco plain flour. There you go. There's that one there. So yeah. So I'm going to measure this out and then get started with it. So that's it. And now what I want to do is add 300 gram of plain flour. I hope I got enough in here. I should do. Yes, I know I'm being a bit precise, but I'm going to try and be as precise as possible. Now I've got some flour left over in that, which I'm going to use to put flour on my surface, so when I need it, it's not going to stick or anything like that. But that's plain and simple what you want to do. 300 gram of flour, and basically just crack them right in the middle of the well. A lot of people normally say crack them in a bowl and then transfer it over to your pasta, just in case one of the eggs is bad or anything like that. But I know these eggs are quite fresh because I just got them this morning. I was lucky enough to find some actually. Right, let's just take a pinch of salt. That's too much. Just gonna add a pinch of salt there. And then what you want to do is just break those eggs and just mix them together while in the well. And now we're just going to work round. A lot of builders will be looking at this and going, yeah, I know how to do that, because basically that's how we make cement as well. It's much better to just use your fork so that you're not getting all your hands all sticky and so on. Yeah, one thing you are going to need, so make sure that you've got, if you're going to be making pasta at home, you will need cling film. So you need to cover it up in cling film so that the pasta can rest and be airtight, not dry out on the sides and so on. It's actually quite satisfying when you get into it and doing it. It is very satisfying. And you know what? We should be really doing this more often. I mean, weekends and stuff like that. We should be making our own pasta because it works out cheaper and you're getting quite fresh product as well. But we rely on store-bought pasta all the time, and maybe these times will try and teach us a lesson or two. So we start working that in now slowly. Some of it will stick to the bottom, but that's okay because we'll just get that in a minute. So you can see it's starting to firm up now, and it's much easier to handle. I hope I'm in shot here. I think I am. Now that looks quite little for basically a family of 5. Doesn't look like much. But you know, we're not eating just pasta. We're obviously gonna have, well, we're having chicken in a tomato sauce with other bits and pieces in it as well. So I think it will be quite filling. And I did find actually the homemade pasta is more filling than your standard pasta. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be more than enough. And if you got any tips on making pasta or different types of pasta, especially on the cutting process, because a lot of people will not have a pasta machine. I don't have one. So I'm going to be showing you how I cut my pasta. And it's the easiest way for me to do it that I found. So I'm going to roll that into a ball now. I'm quite happy with that. So that's my dough, and that's now going in the fridge for about half an hour. So see you when I get back. So at this point you don't want much flour on the surface. I have got my dough ready, and I'll just flour my rolling pin as well. It will be handy to have a knife as well, handy. So I'm going to cut this in half. I'm going to leave the cling film on, the one off. And I'm going to place that like that, so it's airtight against the worktop. At this point we want to knead it a little bit more. And the reason why you don't want so much flour on the work surface is that you don't want to add a lot more flour to it, otherwise your dough goes very stiff. So this has been resting for half an hour in the fridge. Someone out there might have a better way of doing this, but this is the way that I cut my pasta. And obviously you can make shapes, you can make shells, you can make all sorts of shapes with them. But for me, I like to make strips. I'm going to make a nice flattish ball like that. Just flatten it out a little bit. And the key point here is basically simplicity and trying to find a way for you to cut your pasta that it doesn't take you a long time to do. Try and keep your rolling pin clean as well, so it's not grabbing your dough. You try and make your dough as rectangular as possible right from the start. It might help a lot easier. Mine is going more like an apple shape, really. What I tend to do is put a bit of flour on the side there, so I can access it easy enough. It's quite elasticated because it sort of goes back. It shrinks as you're doing it. So just keep dusting it and keep applying a bit more on your surface. I'll try and hold the pasta on its side. I'll try and hold the dough on its side so you can see how thin it is. I'm actually rolling it. Try not to create creases. Creases like this is not good. And as you can see, I don't know if you can have a look at that, but that's how thin it is. It's like a very thin cardboard. And to take it slightly thinner. Now can you imagine if I was to do the whole lot in one go? I would have needed a much bigger space for that. So it's a good job I didn't do that. And for me, I think that's as much as I want to go. Now on to the next step. What we're going to do, we're going to take one side and we're going to flour that nicely. You'll soon understand why. Turn that over and do the same to the other side. And now what you want to do is just start at a small point and roll your dough up nicely. So just keep rolling it. And you're gonna get, your edges are gonna be inconsistent, but that doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. There's no problem whatsoever. So get it all nicely rolled up like that. And what you want to do now is just start from the side, pick the thickness of your cuts, and start cutting your pasta, your dough, to the size that you prefer, like that. As I get to the middle, I'm going to make mine slightly thinner. Now obviously you're doing this by hand, so you're not going to be consistent all the time, but just try and do it as best as you can. And at this point it doesn't look like much, but trust me, that's quite a lot of pasta. If you feel that 300 grams is not enough for you or your family, then obviously do a bit more. Really depends on how much you eat and your kids eat. You can see that's how it looks like. There you go, look at that. You can't just do that. Toss it all over the place like that, and it just unrolls. So that's even better method of doing it. Work your pasta around like that instead of individually, and it all unrolls nicely because you floured it nicely. So yeah, there you go. You get a few stubborn ones like me, and you just tackle them in a different way. So that's quite a lot of pasta. That was 300 grams of dough, 3 eggs, a pinch of salt, and that's what you're left with. I think that's pretty good going, and I'm pretty sure that is going to nearly double up, which will feed the whole family. Half an onion, a little bit of garlic, I'll say a little bit. Tablespoon of garlic for me because I love garlic so much. I started off on a high heat, so I will reduce it afterwards. So this is going to be a chicken and tomato sauce to go with the pasta. Very simple to make. Nothing fancy. I'll tell you what, it tastes very nice. All I'm going to do is brown my onions a little bit at this point. At this point you can add your chicken. And the beauty about this is that you don't really need that much meat, really. So 313 grams of chicken pieces, diced chicken, that's what's in there. Yes, it's been measured out. Because we're going to do a rich tomato sauce, I like to add brown sugar into it because it cuts the acidity of the tomatoes, believe it or not. It just helps the natural sugars of the chicken also to come out. So a bit of pepper, a little bit of ground, I'm gonna say it, chili, just a little bit, and then we got our chicken stock. And I like to put it in slowly. I don't like to put it in all at once. So at this point what I'll do is I'll just put in half of my stock in. So we'll increase the liquid in this. There you go. Looking okay. So I've got my water boiling for the pasta already, so hopefully that'll soon be up on a boil. A little bit of parsley in there. The parsley I put in while it's cooking because basically I don't put it at the end because it's dry parsley and I want it to hydrate. That's Mrs. Ball's chutney. It's a South African chutney. You can see that. And a little bit of this into the sauce will make it go a long way. It gives it an incredible taste. If you can get a hold of this stuff, honestly, go for it. Buy some, because it really enriches sauces and everything like that. It's a very fruity chutney. And it's totally different to mango chutney and stuff like that. It's very, very nice. So I can clearly see by the color of my sauce that I want a bit more tomato paste in it. I think that should be enough. And it is going to go lighter now because I'm going to add the corn flour to thicken the sauce. Not before I add more water to it. When you add your corn flour, you don't want your pot to be piping hot, your liquid to be piping hot. Otherwise, you will get lumps. And oyster the corn flour as soon as you add it into it. So there you go. And now we can just stir that in. And we can add some more water if we want to. You can see the colour of that. Cover that up and let it simmer a little bit. And I can now add my pasta. forgot to mention is I like to add a bit of olive oil to it. And just tease the pasta slowly. We'll let that simmer a little bit and then we'll come back to it. You'll notice a bit of a froth, and that's from the natural pasta and the egg and so on. You know, the fresh pasta normally makes that, where the dry pasta doesn't normally do that, but this one does. It does create a bit of a froth, but when you take the pasta out, it comes out nice and clear. You can see the pasta's cooking nicely. And at this point you can reduce the heat a little bit, but that pasta is starting to double in size. And normally what it is, fresh pasta cooks much faster than your dry pasta, because the dry pasta has to rehydrate as well, and there's a lot of moisture in this pasta because it's fresh pasta, so it will cook much faster than your standard shop bought pasta. So basically all we're going to do is pour all of that in there. Just remember, this is only 300 grams of pasta, so I'm just going to mix everything up. And you know what, you don't have to do this. You can put the sauce into the pasta as you like on the plates, but this is how we like it, and we find that this is much tastier for us. So and there you go, ready homemade pasta. I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy it.